Hello everyone, you're watching Awaz News. I'm Kubra Ali and I'll be taking you through big news across Canada.
SIU provides new details after officer shot outside Midtown apartment. Mississauga family devastated after losing thousands to online flight ticket scam. 3 young children among members of family in hospital after being struck by vehicle in Etobicoke. More Ontario school boards in deficit using reserves ministry documents. 2 arrested, 1 outstanding after man fatally stabbed in North Scarborough. Box cutter wielding suspect arrested following cigarette robbery in Oshawa police. Toronto police officer convicted of stealing from dead people sentenced to 7 years in prison.
These were the headlines, and let's jump right into the details.
The province's police watchdog has released new details of an incident outside a Midtown apartment building on Wednesday night that left a Toronto police officer with gunshot wounds. The officer, a 29-year-old who has been employed with the police service for 5 years, was shot while conducting a robbery investigation in the area of Yonge Street and Eglinton Avenue. According to investigators, officers stopped a vehicle in the area at around 5:30 p.m. In a news release issued on Thursday morning, the Special Investigations Unit said 2 men approached the officers and at one point one of the men shot an officer and fled. A second officer discharged his firearm at the man who fled. The man was not struck, the news release read. Both of the suspects were subsequently arrested by police and neither suffered serious injuries, the SIU added. The SIU, which invoked its mandate shortly after the shooting, is called in to investigate whenever police are involved in a death, serious injury, allegations of sexual assault, or discharge of firearm. Toronto Police Chief Martin Demkiw said the injured officer sustained a gunshot wound to the abdomen. His injuries are not believed to be life-threatening, Demkiw added. Police have not said what charges the 3 suspects are facing, but investigators have said more information will be released on Thursday. A woman who resides in the area said she and her daughter witnessed one of the suspects being taken into custody on Wednesday night. We saw a young man sitting over here against the wall in handcuffs. My daughter was just coming home from work from Yonge and Eglinton. She heard all of the fire alarms and the police, and when she came home, she saw the boy actually being cuffed, and he was quite young, she said. It's terrible. This is historically a safe neighborhood, so it is very disturbing. An Ontario family was planning a religious trip to Saudi Arabia that included 10 people, but when they were checking in for their flights, the family discovered some of their tickets were fake. I felt like crying. It's a big amount and our hard-earned money, said a Mississauga woman who asked Awaz News to not identify her and only use her first name, Nikat, after she was caught in an online travel scam. Last year, when Nikat was purchasing airline tickets for herself and 9 other family members to go to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, she saw an offer on Facebook Marketplace for international travel with a 30% discount. Believing it was a great offer, she contacted the seller, who claimed he could get tickets from Air Canada at a reduced rate, and she purchased 10 airline tickets for $14,320. However, when the family got to the airport, 5 of those tickets were fake. The person actually blocked me right away from the system. The phone wasn't working and I no longer had communication with that individual, said Nikat. At the last minute, they had to purchase an additional 5 tickets at a cost of $17,500. Air Canada was able to provide a refund for the 5 fake tickets, but unfortunately the money went back to the individual who sold the tickets and not Nikat's family. The sad part is Air Canada refunded the money to the original credit card holder who made the payment towards those tickets, Nikat said. Unfortunately, we hear about more and more of these every week, even every day, said Richard Smart, President and CEO of the Travel Industry Council of Ontario, TICO. TICO is the province's travel regulator, which oversees travel agencies, tour groups, and websites. If you deal with a TICO registered company, it has a complaint process and you may be able to receive compensation if something goes wrong. Anyone selling fake tickets online could face charges including fines and jail time. We have had success and we are working on some cases, as you know, where we are hopeful the scammers will be brought to justice, said Smart. When buying travel tickets through social media, you should be aware they may offer little or no protections. Nika told Awaz News she's been trying to over a year with our bank and other agencies to get her money back, but unfortunately has not had any success. If you get any travel offers in the form of text message, email, phone call, or on social media like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, always be wary. It may be worth paying more purchasing your tickets through a registered travel company or agent so you know you are not going to lose your money. 4 members of the family, including 3 children, are in hospital after they were struck by the driver of a vehicle in Etobicoke Wednesday evening. Emergency crews received a call just after 6 p.m. for a collision at the intersection of Islington and Oral Avenues, north of Dundas Street West. Duty Inspector Scott Shutt said a family was hit by a vehicle turning right. A woman was transported to the hospital in life-threatening condition, police said. 3 children, a 1-month-old, 1-year-old, and a 4-year-old, were also taken to the hospital. Shutt said their injuries were serious but non-life-threatening. Meanwhile, the driver's 76-year-old woman remained at the scene. The circumstances surrounding the collision were not immediately known. Officers are conducting their investigation to determine exactly what happened, Shutt said. Anyone with the information, including dashcam footage, is being asked to contact traffic services at 416-808-1900 or Crime Stoppers anonymously. An increasing number of Ontario school boards are reporting deficits and are using or even depleting their reserves, according to internal Ministry of Education briefing documents. The association representing school boards in the province says while the progressive Conservative government has boosted the education budget, increases has not kept pace with inflation, forcing boards to use money they were saving for large projects on operations or make cuts. Education Minister Jill Dunlop said that overall school boards are in good financial health, but her transition binder obtained by the Canadian Press through a Freedom of Information request provides a deeper look. Historically, school boards have reported an overall surplus in their financial statements, but in recent years, the number of school boards in deficit has risen, the documents say. 11 school boards reported in year deficit in 2020 to 21, a number that jumped to 31 boards in 21 to 22 and decreased slightly to 29 school boards in 22 to 23. According to the documents, Ministry of Education officials recently told a legislative committee that currently 31 boards are reporting in year deficits of $200 million. One framed school board deficits as a result of accounting methods. Because of how the school boards account, they follow public sector accounting standard rules. The only way they can access these reserves is by incurring in an year deficit. So it's a bit of complex accounting exercise, but it is no different than you and I putting money aside into a saving account, for example. But Kathleen Woodcock, president of the Ontario Public School Boards Association, said the impacts of deficits and using reserve funds are far-reaching, citing narrower course offerings and cuts to services. A spokesperson for Dunlop said, since 2018, the government has increased public education funding by 20% and increased funding by 136% to fix aging infrastructure and other capital expenditures. The transition binder also provides a glimpse at some of the capital cost pressures facing school boards. The average age of the schools is more than 40 years, the document says, and renewal needs increase with time. There is also no dedicated funding to modernize schools, the documents say, as well as a moratorium on the school closures is placing further strain on those budgets, with boards spending their limited school renewal funding on maintaining and operating schools that may otherwise have closed, the document says. In 2017, the Liberal government of the day put the moratorium in place while it reviewed the process of how closure decisions are made. While the moratorium was intended to temporary, it is still in place 7 years later, and there is no indication if the current government has completed the review. The documents also note that the ministry is working with boats on mitigation plans around reinforced, autoclaved, aerated concrete, the safe roof panels. The government cited as the reason of abruptly closing the Ontario Science Centre. The issue has not been accounted for in renewal needs, the documents say, but Woodcock of the Ontario Public School Boards Association said it does not seem to be a major problem so far. Toronto police have arrested 2 suspects and are looking for a third after a man was fatally stabbed in North Scarborough over the weekend. The incident happened on September 28 at a housing complex at 20 Brimwood Avenue, which is east of Brimley Road between McNichol Avenue and Finch Avenue East. Toronto police said they were called to that area at around 6:45 p.m. for reports of a stabbing. Investigators alleged that a man was stabbed during a fight. Footage from the scene showed a parking garage cordoned off with police tape and a number of officers investigating. Toronto police said that officers located the victim, who has since been identified as 51-year-old Clayton Hunt of Toronto, at the scene. Emergency responders arrived and performed life-saving measures, but the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Hunt is the city's 64th murder victim of the year. On September 30th, 22-year-old David Christopher Knight of Toronto was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He was scheduled to appear in bail court on October 1st. The following day, on October 2nd, police arrested a second suspect. Haywood Chan, 23 of Markham, was charged with first-degree murder. He had an October 3rd bail court date. A third man, 29-year-old Nelson Long of Markham, remains outstanding. He is wanted for the first-degree murder. Anyone with information, including anyone with video footage, is asked to contact police at 416-808-7400 or Crime Stoppers anonymously. Police in Durham region say a suspect armed with a box cutter is facing a number of charges after he allegedly robbed a convenience store in Oshawa Tuesday night. Officers were called to the Circle K on Simcoe Street North, south of Taunton Road East at 11:30 p.m. for a robbery. Police said that the suspect entered the store and grabbed a quantity of cigarettes before attempting to flee the scene. When a witness attempted to block the exit, police said the suspect brandished a box cutter and fled. No physical injuries were reported, police said. A 28-year-old suspect, identified by police as Oshawa resident Michael Beggs, is facing 10 charges in connection with the alleged robbery, including 2 counts of utter death threats, assault with a weapon, and 2 counts of failing to comply with probation. A Toronto police officer convicted of stealing from deceased individuals he was supposed to be investigating has been sentenced to 7 years in prison. The sentence was handed down in a Newmarket courtroom early this week and confirmed to Awaz News by a spokesperson for the Ontario Ministry of Attorney General. In May, Constable Boris Borisov was found guilty of 15 charges related to 5 incidents that occurred between 2020 and 2022. The charges included theft, fraud, breach of trust by an official, and obstruction of justice. In one incident, a court heard that Borisov and another officer were called to the apartment of a man who was reported missing and later found to have died by suicide. During that investigation, Borisov stole the man's debit card, which was used by an associate at a Mississauga butcher shop the next day, the Crown said during the trial. The officer later attended the butcher shop and downloaded footage of the associate submitting a false police report in an attempt to obstruct justice, the court heard. The Crown also asserted that Borisov stole a Tag Heuer watch valued at $6,500 from the missing man's apartment and tried to sell it, an allegation the accused denied. In another incident, the court heard Borisov was investigating the death of women in May of 2020 when he stole her credit card and gave the information to an unknown individual who then used it to make fraudulent purchases. Borisov, who was employed with Toronto Police Service for 16 years, was arrested on April 11, 2022. In her decision, Justice Mary Misner concluded that Borisov's testimony at trial was completely unworthy of belief and wrote that the police officer's story made no sense at least a dozen times. His evidence was riddled with lies, inconsistencies, and evasions. I reject it. It does not raise a reasonable doubt as to his guilt, she wrote in a written decision previously obtained by Awaz News. In August, while he was awaiting sentencing, Borisov was arrested by the Service de Police de la Ville de Montreal as he attempted to leave the country at Montreal Trudeau International Airport. Borisov is currently suspended without pay, but in an email to Awaz News on Thursday, a spokesperson for Toronto Police Service confirmed that they will now move to dismiss him through a formal police disciplinary process.
That's it for now. I'm Kubrali signing off. See you tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a good night.